Welcome back to Cardinal Sports Live. It's a little more cramped at the table now as we welcome our Ball State men's basketball expert, Peter Hood.
Is that a fat joke?
No, Peter.
Okay.
All right, cracking jokes already. Welcome to Cardinal Sports Live.
I appreciate you guys having me out. This is a lot of fun.
We're excited. Let's get to it, all right? So at the beginning of the season, no one thought we would be standing here talking about Ball State men's basketball at the end of March, but here we are. The Cardinals had a huge turnaround, and it earned them a berth in the College Insider Tournament. Ball State was eyeing a run at the big dance, but some tough late-season losses dashed the Cardinals' hopes. Nothing came easy for Ball State in the CIT, though. The Cardinals needed double overtime to knock off Tennessee State, and then another extra period to take care of UT Martin. Then last week, Ball State narrowly lost to Columbia 67-69. Columbia would go on to win that tournament. Taking everything into account about how Ball State's season came to an end, Peter, how do you think the Cardinals should feel?
I think they should feel like they set the tone for what hopefully is a magical run to come as far as this program goes. I think that Coach Whitford, when he came in here, talked about establishing culture. He talked about that was the kind of his first priority as far as things that he wanted to do, and I think that culture is now established because of this team. You knew coming into the year they were going to be better. I mean, you looked at the roster on paper, they were talented, they were deeper, and overall they were a better basketball team on paper. But they had to learn how to win. And I think they did that early on this year, and they had a slip-up late in the year. But to be able to recover from that slip-up, a disappointing end of the regular season where you don't make the conference tournament, you don't win the MAC West Division outright, to be able to bounce back from that and play well in the CIT and win those two games the way that they won them, I think shows a lot about the character of the guys on that team. And I think they should feel proud of what they accomplished. But at the same time, I think they should be hungry for more. Because I think next year they're going to have, as talented as they were this year, they're going to be more talented next year. And they have a very high ceiling and a long way to go. So I think they should feel proud of what they've done because, again, I think they've laid the groundwork for the program, but still a lot of work to be done as far as the basketball program goes.
I couldn't agree more. I think that when they were playing their last game that they won, that 11-point deficit where they came back with 2 minutes left, that's kind of sums up the whole season. You know, they were down. They had points where it was just kind of hopeless, and then they still came back. They brought it, and, you know, it does show a lot about their character. And I think that this team is more than just a basketball team. You know, they're quality players that we have out there on the court.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like Peter was alluding to, the whole culture aspect. A lot of these guys are Whitford's guys now. Bo Calhoun being one of the last guys to leave from the previous regime here. And so, again, you look at next year with Franco House stepping up as a senior, going to be one of the captains, obviously, and then all the other younger guys, obviously, you know, advancing another year and maturing as well in the offseason.
Now, keep in mind, this team was picked to finish last in the MAC West Division. They tied for the MAC West Division championship, and you're talking about a team who won 7 games last year and tripled their win total this year. That's really hard to do. So overall, I didn't mean to make it sound like they didn't accomplish a lot, because they did. They do have a long way to go, but they should feel very proud of what they've done.
Well, all season, Ball State managed to beat opponents without really a clear leading scorer, without necessarily a clear leader the entire time. There weren't really any superstars for the Cardinals this year on the team. Franco House led the team with 12.2 points per game, but there were 8 or so real contributors on this team throughout this year. Who stood out to you as kind of the biggest maybe surprise contributor who kind of helped push the Cardinals to the success?
You know, my biggest surprise was the freshman from Louisville, Trey Moses. You talked to people last year kind of going into the summer, and even when he came on campus at the beginning of the summer, he came in a little bit overweight, didn't have maybe the strength, the core strength that you thought might allow him to play. Very skilled player, and a guy who you thought had a lot of potential. But I think a lot of people looked at Trey Moses and thought, all right, he'll redshirt this year and he'll be a really good player down the road. He worked his body into shape. He worked his tail off in the summer to get his body into shape. They went down to the Bahamas, took a foreign trip in August, and he was maybe the most impressive player on that foreign trip, and that's really what earned him the playing time, and that's when the coaches kind of decided then and there that they weren't going to have to redshirt this guy. He brought immediate size and rim protecting ability that this team really lacked in previous years. The rim protecting ability was huge on the defensive end, and then honestly, at 6'9" with his wingspan, he was also the best passer on the team. Very skilled, could shoot out to, made a couple of threes this year, as a matter of fact, could shoot consistently out to 15 feet. Again, best passer from the high post. The Tennessee State game that you alluded to earlier and that we were talking about earlier in the CIT, he was the best player in that. He was the reason why Ball State stayed alive in the CIT going for career high 13 points, 13 rebounds, and they really ran the offense through him. He was fantastic in all 3 games in the CIT, and he really finished the year strong. But coming into the year, if you had told me that Trey Moses was going to have a double-double in a postseason game, I would have looked at you like you were crazy. So he was definitely my biggest surprise this year, guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you mentioned, Casey, there's no true leading scorer. But definitely with the play of Francis Kiapway is something really impressive. I think that needs to be noted. Obviously, he didn't really finish the season necessarily as the way he started out. But he was definitely one of those go-to scorers. You could, if you needed a shot at the end of the game. Like we talked about earlier, this semester, how he was able to win them the game against Eastern Michigan. He missed the shot earlier in the possession, but then he was able to obviously get that rebound and hit it from deep. And then also with Ryan Weber as well. At one point, he was the leading scorer on the team. I think definitely he's somebody I guess they could look to lean on next year. But again, I know Peter and I sort of disagree on this. I think them not having a true leading scorer sort of hurt them. But then we've seen flashes with Franco House being able to, obviously he finished up leading the team, but like he's able to be that dominant force that can really win you games at the end of the game.
I would have to agree with Peter that my biggest surprise contributor was Trey Moses. His growth, I love watching people grow over a season, and just seeing him grow in 1 year, it's the expectation for what he's going to do in the next 3 years is so exciting to see. He's up there with Calhoun and House in rebounds offensively and defensively. He's consistent now. The first part of the season he wasn't, but he is showing that he is going to be a dominant player, and he's just a freshman. So we have him for 3 more years, and so I'm excited to see where he goes with this team.
He could be scary good. I mean, he could be, if he reaches his potential, you're talking about a first-team All-MAC guy, and she alluded to growth. That's exactly the way she put it, exactly as how Coach Whitford put it. He hasn't seen very many guys grow the way Trey grew his freshman year, so really fun to watch.
Well, we hope to see this Ball State team really grow all together, and you alluded to, and we've talked extensively about this year, how Ball State has put together one of the biggest turnarounds in the country this year. Ball State finished the season 21-14 compared to last year's 7-23 record. Coach Whitford's squad earned its first winning season since he took the helm, and Ball State's 21 wins were the most for any Cardinal team since 2002. And we kind of alluded to it earlier with, it's kind of the remnants of guys from the previous regime, as you put it, Tim. But does this mark a turning point for both Coach Whitford and for Ball State basketball?
Well, you hope so. I think that will be decided a couple years down the road, because what you can do from here, you've kind of got 3 options from here. You can regress. You can somehow get worse, which honestly with the talent they have coming in next year added to what they have coming back, the idea of them somehow getting worse is crazy to me, but you could do that if you kind of rest on your laurels and decide that, hey, we're fine with just making the CIT every year. You could plateau if you have that same mindset. We're okay with making the CIT every year. NCAA tournament isn't something that necessarily has to be a must for us every year, so you could plateau from here. Or you could do what Coach Whitford hopes to do with this program, and that's bring it back to prominence. You're talking about a program that has 7 NCAA tournament appearances, 7 MAC tournament titles, which is the most in the Mid-American Conference, a Sweet 16 appearance. This is a program that has accomplished a lot. It is a storied program, and when Coach Whitford took this job, his goal was to bring this program back to where it needs to be. And I think that this year being a turning point will be decided a couple years down the road. If they're able to take what they did this year and build off of it, then absolutely, I think this is about as good a turning point year as you can have with tripling your win total. But they have to remain hungry, and knowing Coach Whitford, I can't imagine a scenario where this team doesn't remain hungry. I think this will be a turning point. I hope it's a turning point because Ball State, I think, is a much more fun place when basketball is good.
Yeah, definitely. You look at the community aspect side of this too with the NIU game. They had the biggest crowd since the Butler game of 2 years ago. And it's just like showing you how this Ball State team has sort of resurrected the community as a whole. I guess Coach Whitford's always appreciative when all the fans come out, especially the student section. He always thanks them before and after the game for coming out. And that just, I think, overall adds to the entire atmosphere of town of Muncie, because what is Muncie is Ball State. So, I mean, they really sort of define the community as a whole. And once Ball State's playing better, I'm sure more people will keep showing out, and that's indicative. It represents, the winning that's here at Ball State.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. Our last winning season was in 2011, and every team goes through dry spells, but ours was a few years longer than we would have liked. But I really think that this year is it shows them what they can do, and not that they can triple, their winning record and that they can make that and they can have a team that is that good. And I think that we're not losing enough people where we're going to be losing, skill and we're going to be losing play. And so I think that this is going to be a projector into the next few years. And I think we are going to grow. I don't think we're going to regress or plateau. I think we're going to have that growth.
Certainly a lot of expectations surrounding this Ball State team after they've shown what they can do this year. Peter, thanks for joining us, providing us with your expert analysis of this Ball State basketball team as they wrap up what is certainly a much improved season from last year, and one that, what Tim said, the Muncie community really needed. But thank you.
Well, it was a fun season. Next year should be really fun as well. And this has been a fun few minutes. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, thanks again, Peter. Up next.
I don't appreciate the fat jokes, though.
I don't even know what to say to you right now. Up next, the Ball State baseball team opens conference play. Can the Cardinals take care of the MAC? Find out next.